السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله على إحسانه والشكر له على تفضله وامتنانه، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله تعظيما لشأنه، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله داعي إلى رضوانه وعلى آله وأصحابه وإخوانه. أما بعد. إخواني في الله, we are continuing with our lecture series regarding the scholars of Islam, the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has raised to the highest levels in this world and in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says in the Quran, يَرْفَعِ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He raises the level of the believers amongst you, but the level of the scholars, He raises it even higher. Ikhwani fillah, our lecture for tonight is one of the greats of Islamic history, a man known as Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Before we took Sufyan al-Thawri, Sufyan ibn Sa'id ibn Masruq al-Thawri, tonight inshallah we shall look at the biography or short biography of the Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah rahimahullah rahmatan wasi'ah. Ikhwani fillah, in the next lecture, which I'll mention one of the greats also of Islamic history, is known as Abdullah ibn Mubarak al-Marwazi. We mentioned him before, but because it's a new series, we'll mention him again, also because of his great status in Islamic history. This Abdullah ibn Mubarak was one of the greatest scholars of Islamic history. وَكَانَ يُنْفِقُ عَلَى السُّفْيَانَيْنِ وَحَمَّادَيْنِ وَفُضَيْلِ. He used to give every month or every year, he keeps a portion of his money for the scholars. So he used to give the two Sufyans, Sufyan al-Thawri and Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, that we'll speak out tonight. He used to give the two Hammads, Hammad ibn Zayd and Hammad ibn Salama, and he used to give Fudail ibn Iyad and other scholars of Islam. So Sufyan ibn Uyaynah used to get money from Abdullah ibn Mubarak. Also he used to get money for his monthly upkeep from a man called Yahya ibn Khalid al-Barmaki. If you have read Islamic history, you will know about this family known as the Barmakiyun. They were a very royal, noble family in Islamic history, especially under the Khalifa Harun al-Rashid. Then one day a fitna or some jealousy got involved, and this entire family, the Baramika, all of them were thrown in prison. Amongst them this man Yahya ibn Khalid al-Barmaki, who used to give every month Sufyan ibn Uyaynah 1,000 dirham, 1,000 silver coins. Every single month he used to give 1,000 silver coins to this great Imam of Mecca, the Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah rahimahullah. He's thrown in prison. Then he wants to make wudu, and the water is very cold. So his son Al-Fadl ibn Yahya ibn Khalid al-Barmaki, he takes the water in a basin or in a sufuria or something, and he keeps it next to the light or the lamp the entire night. He's holding it up, he does not sleep, so that when the father wakes up in the morning, he can find water for wudu that is warm. Look at the birr of this young man for his own father, Al-Fadl ibn Yahya ibn Khalid al-Barmaki. So the guards, they discovered this, and they said, this is not okay, you're doing something that we are trying to punish you with the cold water. So they removed the lamps from the cells, from the prison cell. So this young man wonders, how can I make sure that my father, when he wakes up in the morning, gets water that is warm for wudu? So he takes the basin and he puts it on his body the entire night, hugging it, so that the body heat that dissipates from his body gets transferred from his body into that basin or that sufuria. The water gets warm, so that the father in the morning gets water that is warm for wudu. He asks, oh dad, after all this glory, after all this wealth, we have found ourselves in such a situation, we are in prison. He says, oh my son, perhaps we were sleeping at night and there was someone crying to Allah that we have wronged them. وَعَيْنُ اللَّهِ لَمْ تَنَمِ. And the eyes of Allah never sleep. Because if you wrong someone, there is no hijab between you and Allah. The dua, there's no dua, there's no hijab, there's nothing that blocks the dua of a madhloom to Allah. They go straight to Allah Azza wa Jal. So my son, perhaps we were sleeping And someone who we wronged when we were ministers and in that position, we wronged them and they complained to Allah about us. This man, when he died, he was seen in a dream. He says, "Ma fa'ala rabbuka bik?" What has happened? What has Allah done to you? He says, "Allah has forgiven me." He says, "Why has Allah forgiven you?" He says, "Because of the dua that Sufyan ibn Uyaynah used to make every time I send him the 1,000 dirham. He used to say, 'Oh Allah, as this man has made my life in dunya easy, make for him his life in akhirah easy.'" So the Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah used to make this dua for this man. So Khani fillah, who is this great scholar that we're talking about tonight? The Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Imam al-Shafi'i rahimahullah, he says, "Kana Sufyan wa Malik al-Qarinan." Sufyan and Malik were of the same level. Malik bin Anas, the Imam of Medina we mentioned previously, were of the same level. He says, "Lawla Sufyan wa Malik la dhahaba ilm al-Hijaz." If it was not for Sufyan and Malik, all the knowledge in the land of Hijaz, Makkah and Medina, would have gotten lost. Ali ibn al-Madini, one of the great scholars of Islamic history, we mentioned previously that Imam Bukhari, his student, he says, "Wallahi, I've never looked down on myself or made myself look worthless to anyone other than Ali ibn Madini." Ali ibn Madini says, the person who's most knowledgeable with the hadith of al-Zuhri is this man Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. He says, "I asked my Sheikh Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan about his sheikhs." He says, "All my sheikhs are dead except Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. And he was an Imam from over 40 years ago." Ikhwani fillah, this is one of the greats of Islamic history. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, he says that Sufyan ibn Uyaynah is the most knowledgeable of the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So this Imam, ikhwani fillah, his full name is Sufyan ibn Uyaynah ibn Abi Imran Maymun al-Hilali mawlahum rahimahullah. He is not from the Hilali tribe, but he comes from the by wala, from the tribe of Maymuna bint Harith, the wife of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He was born in Kufa. Kufa is in which country? No? Who died in Kufa? Which famous Sahabi was assassinated in Kufa? No? No? Not Hussein. Hussein was Karbala. The father of Hussein. Ali was assassinated in Kufa. The first capital city in Islamic history is Medina. And in Medina, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was the leader, then Abu Bakr, then Umar, then Uthman. After Uthman was assassinated, Ali shifted the capital city to Kufa, and he was assassinated in Kufa. So this man, Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, was born in Kufa. He was born in the year 107 of the Hijri calendar. And he died in the year 198 of the Hijri calendar. How old was he when he died? 198 minus 107? 98 minus 7, it's easy mathematics. I don't know why people are thinking. 98 minus 7, 198, 107. How many years, Ikhwani fillah? There's a problem. We need engineers and mathematicians. That's basic maths that people in class 2. How old? 90? 91. So he died at the age of 91. He died very old. We shall mention the benefit of this, Ikhwani fillah. So this man, he's born in Kufa. His father used to be a person who exchanges money, gold and silver and so on and so forth. So the father became bankrupt. So the father left the land of Kufa and went to Mecca with his family. From the age of 6 or so on, he went to Mecca. At that age, Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah had already memorized the Quran. As we said previously, the scholars of Islam, when a child gets his capacity, his thinking capacity, he already can understand things, they do not teach him anything else apart from the Quran. This modern system where we jump into school and every subjects and so on is not correct. That's why you see even the best education system in the world is Finland, and the kids in Finland, they say they start school at 7. So even Kenya start school at 7, but between 7 and 5 and 4, at least you can memorize the Quran. So he memorized the Quran at a very early age, when he was about 5, 6 or 6 years old. He goes to Mecca. While he's in Mecca, ikhwani fillah, one day in the mosque in Haram, he sees a sheikh who looks like a scholar, who's coming to the mosque. So the Sheikh tells him, please hold for me this donkey. I want to go inside and pray a few rak'ah, then I come out. You need someone to park your car. That's your car now. Your donkey is your car those days. So you get someone, please hold for me. My donkey doesn't get lost. So the young boy looks at him and says, I'll do it, but with a condition. He says, what's the condition? First, you have to give me a number of hadiths that you know. So the Sheikh looks at him. Okay. He gives him hadith 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 8 hadiths. So the Sheikh tells him, okay, now I've given you 8 hadiths, you hold the donkey. So the child holds the donkey. He's very young, almost like 10 or 11 years of age. The Sheikh enters, he prays his sunnah prayers, and he comes out. He says, young man, young boy, you're really a bully. Why did you ask for those hadiths, and I'm sure you're not even going to benefit from them? He says, oh Sheikh, the very first hadith you gave me was عن فلان عن فلان عن فلان عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال. He mentions the entire chain of narration and the text of the hadith. All the 8 hadiths, he had already memorized it. Sheikh says, MashaAllah, Barakallahu fiqh, tomorrow come to my class. And this Sheikh, Wanifillah, is the most important Sheikh, or one of the most important Sheikhs for Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, the great Imam from the Tabi'een, Amr ibn Dinar. So he goes and studies under Amr ibn Dinar in Mecca, and takes all the hadiths of Amr ibn Dinar. He says, the number of hadiths I took from Amr ibn Dinar is the same as the period of the da'wah of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. How long was the da'wah of Prophet Nuh alayhi salam? 950. So he took 950 hadiths from Amr ibn Dinar. Ibn Ma'in was asked, who is the most authentic person when it comes to Amr ibn Dinar? He says, no one is more authentic with Amr ibn Dinar other than Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. He was asked, what about Shu'bah? He says, Shu'bah is Amir al-Mu'mineen in hadith. But when it comes to Amr ibn Dinar, the most authentic is this young man, Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. So Sufyan ibn Uyaynah took the knowledge of Amr ibn Dinar. He went also to the great scholar of his time, Imam al-Zuhri, Muhammad ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. Muslims should know this name, Ikhwani Fillah. You know, with regards to the Quran, it's the first of the wahi. It's the revelation of Allah Azza wa Jal. The Quran was compiled into a mushaf at the time of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiallahu anhu. Then it was repeated again at the time of Uthman, where he spread copies to the lands of the Muslims. The person who was given that job by Abu Bakr was Zayd ibn Thabit. Also by Uthman is Zayd ibn Thabit. That's with regards to the Quran. But the other wahi, وَمَا يَنْطِقُ عَنِ الْهَوَى. The Prophet ﷺ does not speak out of desire. The Sunnah, the hadith of Prophet ﷺ, who compiled it first into a book? It's this man, Imam al-Zuhri. He was told by the governor at the time, he was not the Khalifa, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, compiled the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ into a book, and is the first one to compile the hadiths and record them. So he took knowledge also from this Imam Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, who passed away in the year 124 or 125 of the Hijr calendar. Sufyan ibn Uyaynah was born in 107. So for him to have taken knowledge from Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, he was maybe 13 or 14 years of age. Together. Until he reached the category of being the most authentic person to take knowledge from al-Zuhri. The scholars, they say the 3 most authentic people when it comes to al-Zuhri is Ma'mar ibn Rashid, and Malik ibn Anas, and Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Ali ibn Madini says the most knowledgeable person in the hadith of Zuhri is Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. One day he sees in a dream, Ikhwani Fillah, he sees that all his teeth have fallen off. Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, he sees in a dream that he has no teeth. All the teeth have fallen off. So he goes to Imam al-Zuhri and says, I've seen a dream, all my teeth have gotten lost. He says, al-Zuhri to him, teeth in Arabic is asnan. Asnan. Also it has another meaning which means people of the same age as you are. He says, all your colleagues and your people you have studied with, all of them will die and you will remain only by yourself. All your colleagues will die and you'll remain only by yourself. Remember this dream, inshallah, when we discuss it later. So he studied Ikhwani Fillah under many of the scholars of the time. He studied under Abi Ishaq al-Sabi'i. He studied under Shu'bah. Also, Shu'bah took knowledge from him. He studied under A'mash, Sulaiman al-Mihran, Ibn Jurayj, and many of the scholars of the time. Thereafter, Ikhwani Fillah, when he was very young, he was told by one of the scholars, Mis'ar ibn Khadam, take a column in the mosque of Haram in Mecca and start teaching the hadith of Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He says, I'm very young. I cannot start teaching at this age. He says, no, you're not very young. You have the hadiths of Zuhri and the hadiths of Amr ibn Dinar. Between you and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam is two people. You are from the Atba' Tabi'in. You're only two people between him and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, At-Tabi'i and the Sahaba, and you reach Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you have over 7,000 hadiths. Teach the Muslims. So he starts teaching at a very early age in the mosque of Prophet Muhammad, in the mosque of Haram in Mecca, the grand mosque, our Qibla that we face as Muslims. So he starts teaching there at a very young age. Many scholars, Ikhwani fillah, take knowledge from him. From amongst the greatest scholars that have taken knowledge from Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, the Imam, is the Imam al-Shafi'i, the Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal al-Shaybani, the Imam Abdullah ibn Mubarak al-Marwazi, the Imam Ali al-Madini, the Imam Yahya ibn Ma'in, the Imam Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan, the Imam Abdul Rahman al-Mahdi, and many others, Ibrahim al-Ramadi, and so on and so forth. Many scholars, they took knowledge from this Imam. And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him a very long life, many different generations of scholars were born from his school or from his teaching. Ikhwani fillah, this man, he had performed over 70 Hajj. He performed Hajj how many times? Over 70 times. He was from Kufa originally, but he came and settled with his family in Mecca. And he performed Hajj over 70 times. He says, his nephew Al-Hasan ibn Imran ibn Uyaynah, he says that I was with my uncle Sufyan ibn Uyaynah in Muzdalifah in the year 197 of the Hijri calendar. And he said, oh my nephew, I have made dua to Allah Azza wa Jal every single Hajj for it not to be my last Hajj. But this year, I feel shy to Allah Azza wa Jal to ask this question. I'm not going to ask it this year. A few months thereafter, he passed away, rahimahullah, after performing Hajj over 70 times. The current Mufti of Saudi, Sheikh Abdul Aziz, a Sheikh also, he's performed Hajj almost 70 times. And he says, as I mentioned previously, that he has done Hajj for some of the scholars of Andalus who were never able to perform Hajj because of the way the road was blocked, because of the battles. People like Ibn Hazm, Al-Mundhiri, Ibn Abdul Barr, and so on and so forth, he performed Hajj for them. So this man performed Hajj how many times? Over 70 times. وَكَانَ حَافِظًا مُتْقِنًا. He used to be a strong hafiz. So much so, that he was the scholar of the people of Mecca. Sheikh al-Islam, used to be known as Sheikh al-Islam, Sheikh al-Hijaz. Imam al-Dhahabi calls him Sheikh al-Islam, Sheikh al-Hijaz. People will go to Mecca, and from amongst the reasons, the main reasons they visit Mecca, yes, Hajj. But more than even Hajj is to meet this Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah and take from his knowledge. Why were they so looking forward to take knowledge from this Imam? There's something in Hadith, Ikhwani fillah, that is known as Uluwi Sanad. Uluwi as-Sanad. The chain of narration to be very small between you and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to ensure authenticity. There's a game maybe you played when you were children. It's called, I think, Broken Telephone. You remember this game? I tell you something, then you say something to that person, to that person, to that person. The time that chain reaches 10 people, the message that I gave first has been changed somewhere in the middle. Are you together? So you want the chain to be as small as possible. If I only tell one person, my name is Akram, I'm sure he will not make a mistake. But if it moves over there, my name will turn into Abraham, or it will turn into America or something else because of the many chains. So the shorter the chain of narration, the better. So students of knowledge from everywhere in the world were setting out to Mecca for Hajj, yes, but also to meet this great Imam, Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, rahimahullah, he used to get very irritated by this. Sometimes the students of knowledge, they come and they overwhelm him. They come in the thousands and everyone wants to be given a hadith. Oh Sheikh, may Allah bless you, give me a hadith, give me a hadith. I guess it's becoming too much. So sometimes he hides for days, he doesn't appear, he doesn't come to teach for many days. The students get irritated. One day they come, they break down his door and say, Sheikh, you must give us a hadith. He says, Subhanallah, you guys have broken into my door. And the Prophet ﷺ, as narrated to me by Zuhri and Sa'al ibn Sa'ad, and Nabi ﷺ, he said that if there's a person who was peeping into the door of the Prophet ﷺ said, if I knew you were peeping, I would have poked your eye and blinded you. The door has been kept there for you to ask permission. Says, oh Imam, forgive us, we've made a mistake. Says, are you regretting? Says, yes, I've regretted. Says, this hadith I've narrated from so and so and so and so. And nadamu tawbah. If you regret, tawbah has been accepted from you. Take these two hadiths for free. For people used to travel for months to take a single hadith of this sort. Another time the students really angered him. Then he looks at them and says, Wallahi, I'm the most unluckiest person in the world. I'm very unfortunate. He says, why is it, Sheikh? He says, I sat with Damra ibn Sa'id, who narrated hadith from Abu Sa'id al-Khudri from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. I sat with Amr ibn Dinar, who narrates from Jabir from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I sat with Abdullah ibn Dinar, who narrates from Abdullah ibn Umar and Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam. I sat with Az-Zuhri, who narrates from Anas ibn Malik from the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And that because of my old age, I've stayed in this earth for very long. I'm sitting with the likes of you people. I'm very unfortunate, very bad luck. One of the young students who stood up, is called Yahya ibn Akram, says, oh Sheikh, are you going to be fair if I tell you something? He says, I'll be fair. He says, oh Sheikh, the feeling you have is not as bad as the feeling your sheikhs felt by sitting with you and your companions, yet they sat with the Sahaba of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So you actually, it's not as worse. You're even worse for your sheikhs than we are to you. Says, Inna lillahi wa rajiun. What is your young man? He says, my name is Yahya ibn Akram. Says that this young boy, he's fit to sit with the leaders. And this young boy became the Qadi. He was made a Qadi by the Khalifa al-Ma'mun. He was only 17 years of age. He was made the Qadi of the whole of Basra when he was only 17 years of age. The people say to him, why is the Khalifa giving this person Qadi? He's only 17 years of age. He says, how old are you, Qadi? He says, I'm the same age that the Prophet ﷺ gave someone Ibn Man. Not to Usama ibn Zayd. Usama ibn Zayd, yes, was also 17, but also there's one, the governor of Mecca, is called, I've forgotten the name, he was also 17 years of age. They all kept quiet. He was very sharp. This Qadi, Ibn Aktham. Another time, he says to his students, أَفِيكُمْ أَحَدٍ مِنْ أَهْلِ مَصْرٍ. Is there anyone amongst you from the students of Egypt? He says, yes, we're here, Sheikh. He says, مَا فَعَلَ اللَّيْث ibn Sa'ad. What has happened to Layth ibn Sa'ad? He says, مَاتَ. They say he has died. He says, أَفِيكُمْ أَحَدٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ رَمْلَةٍ. Is there any amongst you from the people of Ramla? He says, yes. He says, مَا فَعَلَ ibn Rabi'a al-Ramli. He says, مات. He's died. He says, أَفِيكُمْ أَحَدٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ حِمْص. Is there anyone from the city of Hims that the Muslims want to conquer tonight in Syria? أَفِيكُمْ أَحَدٌ مِنْ أَهْلِ حِمْص. Says, نعم. قال ما فعل بقية بن وليد. What has happened to Baqiyah ibn Walid? Says, Mat. All these are great scholars in those areas of the world. Says, أفيكم أحد من أهل دمشق. Is there anyone from the city of Damascus? Says, نعم. ما فعل الوليد ibn Muslim. What has happened to Walid ibn Muslim, the great scholar of Damascus? قالوا مات. They say he's died. قال سبحان الله أفيكم أحد من أهل قيصرية. قيصرية is where the Benjamin Netanyahu has taken over the Palestinians and he lives over there. He says, أفيكم أحد من أهل قيصرية. قالوا نعم. قال ما فعل محمد بن يوسف الريابي. What has happened to the great scholar of Qaysariya, Muhammad ibn Yusuf al-Riyabi? Says, قالوا مات. He's died. He starts crying, Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, and he says, من الشقاء تفردي بسؤددي. He says, from the most unfortunate things that has happened to me, that all my companions, all my contemporaries, all the people I studied with, all of them have died. And I've been left by myself as the leader of the Muslims in knowledge. No one to support me. He remained by himself, and from the greatest musibah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings upon this ummah is the death of the ulama. So an alim, he feels stronger like Musa felt stronger with Harun by his side. So an alim feels stronger when he has other scholars with him. But this Imam has lived for over 90 years, and none of the scholars that he studied with, or his contemporaries or his companions, none of them are alive. All those people who took from Az-Zuhri, or took from Amr ibn Dinar, or took from Abi Ishaq al-Sabi'i and so on, all of them have passed away. He has been left alone as the Imam of the people of Mecca. Abdullah ibn Wahab, from the scholars of Egypt, he says, I have never seen anyone more knowledgeable of the tafsir of the Quran of Allah Azza wa Jal than Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, he says, if a person is making sins based out of shahawat, out of desires, farju lahu al-khair, hope for him something good. But if a person is doing sins out of arrogance, fakhsha alayh, fear for that person. They ask him, oh Sheikh, why is this? He says, because the person who does things out of desire is like his father Adam alayhi salam, who ate out of desiring and he was forgiven by Allah Azza wa Jal. But the person who does sin out of arrogance is like the Iblis, who became cursed because of his arrogance. Look at the knowledge of tafsir this man had. He says another time, do not stop making dua because of what you know about yourself. Some people might say, I'm not going to make dua because I'm a sinner. I feel ashamed to stand in front of Allah and I'm making all these sins. I'm a munafiq. I don't want to make dua. He says, do not stop making dua because of what you see of yourself. فَقَدْ اسْتَجَابَ اللَّهُ لِإِبْلِيسِ وَهُوَ شَرُّ خَلْقٍ. Allah has answered the dua of Jibril and is the most evil and vilest of the creation. He says, أَنذِرْنِي إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. Oh Allah, give me time of respite until the day of judgment. قال إِنَّكَ مِنَ الْمُنذَرِينَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْوَقْتِ الْمَعْلُومِ. You shall be given respite until the day of judgment. Allah says in the Quran, أُدْعُونِي أَسْتَجِبْ لَكُمْ. Make dua, I shall answer to you. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has answered the dua of Iblis, what about my dua and your dua? Never stop making dua because you know you've made a mistake here and there. Khani fillah, this Imam, Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, born in the year 107 of the Hijri calendar, he passed away in the year 198 of the Hijri calendar at the age of 91 years as we mentioned, and he was buried in Mecca. Performed over 70 Hajj. Sufyan al-Thawri rahimahullah, he was asked, Sufyan, the great scholar, he was asked, who do you take knowledge after you? He says, take it from Ibn Uyaynah and take it from Za'idah. Ibn Uyaynah is one of the most unique of the people. Imam Ali ibn al-Madini, for benefit of Fillah, sometimes you read the books of hadith by something technical. If you hear a chain of narration that says, An Sufyan, this hadith is from the hadith of Sufyan. How do you differentiate between the two Sufyans? Are you together? This is something very technical when it comes to hadith knowledge. You have to know such things. It's easy for the scholars, but for us as students of knowledge, it becomes sometimes challenging. It is easy to know this based on the students or based on the sheikhs. For example, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, if he narrates from Sufyan, who is this Sufyan that Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal narrates from? Are you together? Ahmad ibn Hanbal was born in the year 164 of the Hijri calendar. He died in the year 241 of the Hijri calendar. Are you together? Ahmad ibn Hanbal was born in the year 164 and he died in the year 241. Sufyan al-Thawri died in the year 161. Sufyan ibn Uyaynah died in the year 198 of the Hijri calendar. Based on this information, if Ahmad ibn Hanbal narrates from Sufyan, who is that Sufyan? Naam? Huh? Al-Thawri or Ibn Uyaynah? Huh? Ibn Uyaynah. Why? Because Ahmad was actually born after Al-Thawri. It's not possible for him to have heard from Al-Thawri. Even the very first hadith in Sahih Bukhari, it says Al-Bukhari حدثنا الحميدي عبد الله ibn Zubayr قال حدثنا سفيان. If you say Humaydi and Sufyan, you know from the students of Sufyan ibn Uyaynah is Humaydi Abdullah ibn Zubayr. So you can tell easily from the students. If you see a student like Waqi' or Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan or Abdurrahman al-Mahdi and so on, you know it's Sufyan al-Thawri. So based on the students, you can tell who is the person narrating from, who is that Sufyan. Also from the Sahaba, sometimes you can see a hadith an Abdullah. Who's Abdullah? The many Abdullahs. But most of the time, if you see a hadith of Kufa, it's Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. If you see a hadith of Medina, you know it's Abdullah ibn Umar radiyallahu anhuma, and so on and so forth. So hadith, ikhwani fillah, ilm al-hadith is the most vast of the Islamic knowledge. Ikhwani fillah, this Imam was one of the greatest scholars of Islamic history, Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. Make sure you name your children after him also, Sufyan. There are two great Sufyan, Sufyan ibn Uyaynah and Sufyan al-Thawri. One of the sheikhs in our time is called Abu Ishaq al-Huwaini. From the scholars of hadith, the Sheikh al-Albani praised. He says, I saw a dream after researching the hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. And in this dream, I saw the Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah and his companion Ma'mar ibn Rashid. These are the two strongest when it comes to narrative from Az-Zuhri. So they were debating and having a disagreement amongst them. Then I happened to walk past them. Then Sufyan calls me, says, you shall rule between me and Ma'mar. So he says, I heard from both of them, and I said, the correct opinion is with Ma'mar ibn Rashid, not you or Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah. So the Sheikh Abu Ishaq al-Huwaini says that Sufyan ibn Uyaynah started crying in the dream and said, Wallahi, you're the most beloved person to me on the face of this earth. Ikhwani fillah, this is one of the great scholars of Islamic history. Some scholars, they say he had a madhab. Wallahu alam, if he had his own madhab, he used to be very fearful of giving a fatwa in anything. If someone comes to him, asks the question of fiqh, he says, go ask someone else. Go ask the scholars. You should not rush, ikhwani fillah, if Allah gives you knowledge, to say everything halal, haram, mubah, mustahab. You should not rush. You should be very careful. Preferably ask other people to take that obligation or that responsibility from you. This is one of the great Imams of Islamic history, the Imam Sufyan ibn Uyaynah, Abu Muhammad al-Hilali, rahimahullah. His kunya is Abu Muhammad al-Hilali, born in the year, what year was he born? 107, and he passed away in the year 198. This same year, that he passed away, 198, for benefit is the year other scholars passed also. Abdul Rahman al-Mahdi passed away in this year. Yahya ibn Sa'id al-Qattan passed here, this year. His student Imam al-Shafi'i, one of his great students who had his own madhab, passed away 6 years later in the year 204 of the Hijri calendar. So if you want to memorize dates when it comes to Islamic history, it's always good to connect those dates with other people's dates. Like we said previously, yesterday's lecture, Imam Auza'i passed away in the year 157. In the previous lecture before that, we said Imam al-Layth ibn Sa'ad passed away in the year 175. 157, if you rotate the numbers or switch the numbers, 157 becomes 175. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.